The Galactic Empire was vast, its reach extending across the stars like a shadow that stretched for centuries, conquering world after world without pause. Its fleets were unparalleled in power. Their technology was light years ahead of anything any other species had ever developed. For the Empire, power was something to be taken for granted. Every new world that came under their control fell into line and submitted to the inevitable rise of their rule. But as the Empire expanded, so did the number of species it encountered, and over time, some of those species fell into obscurity, dismissed as too primitive to be anything but fleeting curiosities. Earth was one such world, a tiny blue dot nestled in the arms of a small galaxy on the edge of the Empire's map, one of many so-called backwater planets. It had little to offer in terms of resources or strategic value. Its inhabitants were mostly engaged in petty conflicts and rebuilding their cities after centuries of war and destruction. They had yet to venture beyond their own world or master any form of advanced technology that could make them a threat. The Empire's scouts had taken a passing glance at the planet. Their reports had been short and dismissive, primitive, incapable of space travel, much less intergalactic conquest. Their cultures were fractured and divided, unable to unite against any serious external pressure. The diplomats sent to Earth found no signs of threat. The humans were polite but unaware of the greater galactic community. They were a species just beginning to discover the basics of their own world, yet to master the simplest aspects of spacefaring technology. This assessment led the Empire to believe that Earth posed no immediate danger. It was an insignificant planet at the fringes of known space. To the Empire, Earth was a curiosity to be studied from a distance, a place to observe, but not interfere with. In their eyes, humanity was nothing special, just another primitive species, bound for eventual extinction or assimilation into the greater galactic order. The Empire had conquered many worlds before, and Earth would be no different. Its inhabitants were nothing but another step on the path to galactic unification. That path would be smooth and easy. There was no reason to think otherwise. After all, no species had ever successfully resisted the Empire's advances. What the Empire did not know was that Earth was not as helpless as it appeared beneath the surface of the planet. Humanity had been busy for years working on technologies and strategies that the Empire could never have predicted. Their scientists and engineers had been secretly developing new forms of stealth technology designed to make their ships invisible to even the most advanced scanners in the galaxy, while the diplomats and military leaders of the Empire focused on their regular routine. Earth's brightest minds had been crafting a fleet that could strike without warning and vanish without a trace in the vastness of space. No one had noticed the changes. Not even the Empire's most skilled observers had detected the buildup beneath their very noses. While the Empire slept in its arrogance, Earth had been preparing. And now it was time for the Empire to find out the truth. The humans were not what they thought they were, and the consequences of that mistake would soon become painfully clear. In the deep silence of space, Earth's secret fleet slowly began to emerge from the shadows. It was an incredible sight. Ships that seemed to shimmer and blur as they passed through the blackness, their surfaces perfectly designed to blend in with the surrounding space, each one equipped with the most advanced stealth technology the galaxy had ever seen, invisible to sensors and undetectable by even the most sophisticated scanning systems. These ships were more than just technology. They were the culmination of decades of human ingenuity and determination. They were a symbol of everything humanity had built in secret from the Empire's eyes. Project Vanguard had been a risk, one that few outside of Earth's top military circles knew about. Its existence had been classified to the highest levels. Not a single word had left the confines of the human command center. Not even the Empire's most dedicated spies could infiltrate the information. Each ship had been crafted with precision, designed to be undetectable and unstoppable, invisible. As they moved through space, silent and deadly, they could slip past the defenses of the greatest galactic powers without so much as a whisper. When the time came to activate the fleet, Earth's leaders stood on the precipice of a new era. They knew the risk of revealing their strength, but the decision had been made. The Empire had underestimated them, and they would no longer remain in the shadows. Earth's fate would no longer be decided by a distant empire that saw them as insignificant. Their fleet was ready, and their message was clear. The time for hiding was over. The activation of Project Vanguard was as much a moment of defiance as it was of triumph. A singular encrypted message was sent to the Empire, an unmistakable signal that Earth was now a force to be reckoned with. "We are Earth," the message began, "and you have made a grave mistake." The human fleet moved swiftly, each ship gliding through space without detection. They hovered above Earth's atmosphere, waiting for the right moment to strike. The ships would be the first sign that the Empire had missed something critical. They were not just going to stand idly by and wait for their world to be swallowed up by an unstoppable force. They were going to make a statement. They would show the Empire exactly what happens when it assumes power without understanding the forces it's dealing with. As the message was broadcast across the Empire's communication channels, the vast fleets of the Empire were busy overseeing their daily operations, unaware of the impending storm. Earth's signal was like a pebble dropped into a pond. It rippled through the Empire's networks. At first, there was confusion, then disbelief. The humans had sent a challenge, a declaration of war from a species they had long considered beneath their notice. The Empire's diplomats and commanders scoffed at the message at first, brushing it off as a meaningless gesture from an insignificant world. But then something changed. One by one, Earth's ships began to take their positions across key Empire sectors, silently appearing above outposts and strategic military points that the Empire had long thought secured. The humans had already begun their first moves, striking swiftly and precisely, their ships appearing like ghosts, leaving no trace behind. The Empire's defense systems blinked in confusion. No alarms went off, no warnings were issued. It was as if the human fleet was never there until it was too late. The Empire's patrols found their stations disabled, their communications cut off, and their most advanced defenses left in ruins. Before they could even react, the humans were already gone, slipping back into the void of space, leaving nothing but the aftermath of their message. The Empire now faced an enemy unlike any it had encountered before, an enemy that had already made its presence felt before it had even shown its full hand. The first signs of panic rippled through the Empire's military command as the reports began to flood in from across the galaxy. The images of Earth's invisible ships striking key outposts and military stations left the Empire's forces in complete disarray. It wasn't just the strikes themselves that sent shockwaves through the Empire. It was the realization that they had underestimated the humans far more than they could have imagined. They had dismissed Earth as a primitive world whose inhabitants were nothing more than an emerging species, unable to challenge the might of the Empire. But now the Empire was forced to confront a terrifying truth: humanity had far more capability than anyone had given them credit for. As the weeks passed and the invisible fleet of Earth continued its systematic strikes, the Empire scrambled to respond, but no one could anticipate where the next blow would fall. Earth's ships were ghosts, appearing only to strike with surgical precision, and then vanishing back into the depths of space. Before the Empire could even launch a counteroffensive, the attackers were gone. The Empire sent out countless patrols, each one searching for any sign of the human fleet, but found only empty space. Earth's ships had learned the art of hiding in plain sight, using the vastness of space to their advantage. They struck in ways that no one had expected. Their tactics were unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. One moment the fleet would disable a communications relay deep in Empire territory. The next it would disable a key military base or sabotage an Empire flagship. This was not the kind of conventional war the Empire was used to fighting. There were no grand battles, no fleets locked in open conflict. There was only a constant, relentless series of smaller strikes, each one weakening the Empire's hold piece by piece. Each attack sent a message that echoed through the Empire's ranks. Humans were not weak. They were resourceful and ruthless when they needed to be, and they were not about to be swept aside. Empire commanders tried to regroup, but they quickly realized that they were facing a battle they weren't prepared for. Each time they thought they had tracked the fleet's movements, they were proven wrong. As soon as they launched a full-scale offensive, the humans would disappear, only to strike again when the Empire's forces were at their weakest. The humans knew how to exploit the Empire's overconfidence. They knew how to take advantage of every vulnerability in the Empire's systems, and they exploited it without mercy. The Empire began to doubt itself. A string of failed engagements with the humans left their military leadership frustrated and bewildered. It wasn't just the loss of resources or the damage to their pride. It was the growing realization that their once unstoppable war machine was no longer so invincible. Every time they came close to a victory, the humans slipped through their fingers. They were like shadows, always one step ahead. The leaders of the Empire convened in high-level meetings, but their once immovable confidence was starting to crack. They had expected to crush Earth without effort. Instead, they were locked in a war of attrition against an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The message from Earth's fleet was now undeniable. Earth was no longer just a backwater planet in the Empire's eyes. It was a force in its own right, a force that had learned how to fight in ways that the Empire had never considered, and one that would not stop until the Empire understood just how badly it had misjudged them. The Empire was beginning to unravel under the pressure. What had initially been seen as a small, insignificant rebellion now grew into a full-scale crisis that shook the foundations of the Empire's military strategy. The commanders and generals who had been quick to dismiss Earth were now scrambling to find answers, but every plan they devised fell apart the moment they engaged the human fleet. The human ships, invisible and unpredictable, had dismantled key military installations and crippled entire sectors with terrifying efficiency. Earth's strikes had been calculated, precise, and devastating, leaving the Empire struggling to maintain control over its far-reaching territories. Empire command was thrown into chaos as multiple sectors fell into disarray. The attacks were relentless, leaving no time to regroup. Communication lines were severed, leaving battalions isolated and unable to coordinate with each other. Planetary defense systems that had once been seen as impenetrable were hacked and disabled within minutes, causing widespread panic. The once mighty Empire, which had effortlessly crushed rebellions and subdued uprisings in the past, was now on the defensive. Each report from the front lines only confirmed what the Empire feared. The humans were no longer just defending their world. They were actively dismantling the Empire's ability to respond. The Empire's response was as swift as it was desperate. They deployed their elite forces, sending in some of their most experienced commanders and fleets to crush the human threat once and for all. This time, they would bring the full weight of their armada to bear against Earth's fleet. The Empire believed that this final push would destroy the human resistance in one fell swoop. Their forces moved with brutal force, anticipating that the humans would fold under the pressure of a full-scale invasion. But the humans were ready. Earth's stealth fleet remained elusive, striking in pockets where the Empire's forces were weakest. No matter how many ships the Empire sent, the humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Every time the Empire thought it had found the humans' location, it was a trap. Ambushes, sabotage. Earth's ships used every advantage at their disposal, utilizing advanced technology and tactics honed over centuries of conflict on their homeworld. The Empire's fleets were torn apart in scattered skirmishes, and with each lost battle, morale within the Empire's ranks plummeted. The Empire's fleet commanders, once known for their ruthlessness and decisiveness, were now hesitant. Doubts began to seep into their minds. Every move they made was met with failure. No matter how much firepower they brought, the humans always found a way to disappear into the void of space. They no longer believed it was a matter of defeating Earth's fleet. They now feared it was a matter of survival. The turning point came when a surprise attack struck the Empire's Central Command Facility, one of the most fortified and heavily protected structures in the galaxy. Earth's stealth ships appeared out of nowhere, disabling the facility's security systems and causing widespread havoc. By the time the Empire responded, the humans had already extracted critical data and left without a trace. The Empire was now fully exposed. Its command structure, once impenetrable, was vulnerable to attack. Desperation took hold of the Empire's high command. They called for reinforcements from distant sectors, but time was running out. With each passing day, Earth's fleet grew bolder, striking harder and leaving the Empire's forces scattered in disarray. What had begun as a cautious conflict was now a full-fledged war, one that the Empire had no answer for. Earth was no longer just a threat. It had become the Empire's worst nightmare. And still, the humans remained silent, watching from the shadows, as the Empire struggled to regain control of a galaxy they had long thought would always be theirs. The message was clear. The Empire had misjudged Earth, and now it would pay the price. The Empire's once confident grip on the galaxy was slipping fast. What had begun as a minor inconvenience had blossomed into a full-blown catastrophe, and the Empire was losing ground at a staggering pace. The human fleet, elusive and relentless, had shown no signs of slowing down. Each calculated strike sent waves of panic throughout the Empire, and every day brought more reports of critical systems being disabled, fleets being decimated, and entire sectors falling into chaos. The Empire's military leaders were starting to realize that the situation was far worse than they had ever anticipated. As Earth's stealth ships continued their campaign of destruction, the Empire began to question its most basic assumptions. For centuries, the Empire had operated on the belief that technology and sheer force were the cornerstones of dominance in the galaxy. And yet it was the humans, with their unpredictable tactics and advanced but subtle technologies, who were turning the tables. What the Empire had initially seen as a primitive species had now become a shadowy nightmare, a force that used their wits and resourcefulness to undermine an empire that was built on brute strength. The Empire had never encountered an enemy like this before. They had fought countless wars, crushed insurrection after insurrection. But this was different. The humans weren't fighting conventionally. They weren't aiming for territory or riches. They were fighting for survival, but they were also fighting with a unique kind of ingenuity that the Empire had underestimated. Earth's fleet didn't just rely on technology. It adapted and innovated in ways that the Empire had never considered. One of the key differences between Earth's ships and the Empire's was how they operated in unison. Each ship in Earth's fleet was a piece of a greater puzzle. While the Empire's fleets were designed for mass destruction, Earth's ships functioned like a living organism, flexible, responsive, and in constant communication with one another. This cohesion allowed them to strike at multiple targets simultaneously, creating chaos within the Empire's ranks. A single ship would take out a supply line, while another disabled a communications hub. Within moments, entire sectors would be thrown into disarray, their ability to respond crippled by the loss of resources and coordination. The Empire's attempts to combat this adaptability were futile. Every new strategy they devised was countered by Earth's ability to adjust, to learn from each encounter and improve upon its tactics. For every new weapon or ship the Empire sent to engage Earth, the humans responded with countermeasures that baffled the Empire's best minds. No matter how advanced their weaponry became, the humans' ability to strike with precision and vanishing speed rendered it useless. Frustration turned to fear. The Empire's elite fleets were beginning to question their ability to win. Even the Empire's most battle-hardened generals were forced to confront the horrifying truth. Earth wasn't just another foe to be crushed. It was a true adversary. And it was winning. The growing fear began to spread from the military to the ruling class. There were whispers of mutiny, of rebellion within the Empire's ranks. The human threat had now transcended the battlefield. It had become a rallying cry for those who sought to challenge the Empire's oppressive rule. As more and more colonies fell into disarray, the Empire's once unshakable unity was showing signs of fracturing. But while the Empire dealt with internal strife, Earth remained silent. No demands, no ultimatums, no pleas for peace. The humans fought quietly, efficiently, and with a calm determination that only made the Empire's panic more palpable. The message was clear. Earth was not interested in diplomacy, not interested in surrender. They had no intention of being subjugated. The fight was no longer about survival. It was about showing the Empire that Earth was not a world to be ignored or crushed. And so, as the galaxy watched in stunned silence, the once mighty Empire began to crumble from within. its forces battered and broken, its leadership in disarray. The human fleet continued its silent campaign, and the Empire realized that in their arrogance, they had awoken a beast they could not tame. The tides of war had shifted, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of those they had once deemed insignificant. As the Empire's collapse began to feel inevitable, the last glimmer of hope for its survival flickered in a desperate gambit. The mobilization of its most elite forces, a coalition of the Empire's greatest fleets, would converge on Earth's homeworld to crush this rebellious spark once and for all. The idea was simple: launch a full-scale invasion, overwhelm Earth's defenses, and erase the threat before it could grow any larger. But as they prepared for the final assault, the Empire's high command overlooked a crucial detail. Earth was not fighting to defend itself. It was fighting for something much greater. As Earth's fleet continued to strike at the Empire's weakening infrastructure, a new phase of humanity's rebellion began to unfold. No longer simply targeting military assets, Earth's forces started to disrupt the Empire's political control. Their stealth ships began to infiltrate key planetary systems, using their invisibility to hack into vital governance networks, leaking critical information to populations under the Empire's rule. The broadcasts that had once been simple challenges morphed into a full-scale communication war. Earth's message spread far beyond their homeworld, reaching even the farthest corners of the Empire. They weren't just asking for the galaxy's attention. They were demanding it. "We are Earth, and we will not be silenced." The message was simple, direct, and powerful. It echoed through the airwaves, infiltrating the minds of oppressed species across the galaxy. What had started as a localized rebellion began to spark uprisings across the Empire, as planets that had been subjected to centuries of domination found new hope. For the first time in generations, they saw Earth not as an insignificant planet, but as a symbol of resistance. Earth's message was a call to arms, not just against the Empire, but against the idea of an unchallenged tyrannical rule. And as the rebellion spread, the Empire's control weakened further. Colonies previously under strict supervision now found themselves questioning their loyalty. Once steadfast commanders defected, citing the rising hope among the people that Earth's audacity could be the catalyst for an overthrow of the Empire's reign. Rebellions broke out in every corner of the galaxy, fueled by the sparks Earth's stealth fleet had ignited. Planets and systems that had long lived under the Empire's iron fist began to see a new kind of future. The tables had turned. Now the Empire was facing not just one enemy, but the possibility of a galactic insurrection. The Empire's response, though swift, was utterly disjointed. As their military forces scrambled to respond to the growing number of rebellions, their central command was fractured. The once cohesive military machine that had known no equal was now plagued by infighting, miscommunication, and a failure to adapt. Earth's stealth ships, once thought of as mere shadows, had become symbols of this transformation, proving that a handful of well-prepared individuals could challenge even the most formidable of powers. With each new uprising, the Empire's military faltered. With each new broadcast from Earth, morale within the Empire's ranks plummeted. Their once unshakable leadership began to question their ability to maintain control over the galaxy. They could no longer afford to ignore the growing numbers of defiant systems, and with the looming threat of more fleets defecting, the Empire was forced to spread itself thinner and thinner. In a desperate move, they tried to organize a counteroffensive to crush Earth once and for all. But the humans were ready. Earth's fleet had been waiting for this moment. The time for hidden strikes was over. Earth was no longer fighting in the shadows. It was now ready to engage on a scale the Empire could never have predicted. A single final message was sent out to the entire galaxy. This is Earth. The Empire's time is over. It was a promise. The Empire had misjudged humanity, and now Earth would no longer remain a passive player. The final assault was coming, and the Empire would have no choice but to face the full force of Earth's newfound power. The galaxy was watching. The tides of history were shifting. The human rebellion had become an unstoppable force. The final offensive began with a quiet brilliance that the Empire never saw coming. Earth's fleet, once thought to be a group of scattered, stealthy raiders, now emerged from the shadows with a coordinated precision that left the Empire stunned. What had been dismissed as an unpredictable threat was now a well-organized force, an army that had learned, adapted, and outpaced the Empire at every turn. The entire galaxy watched as Earth's ships surged forward, not with the reckless abandon of desperate rebellion, but with the strategic focus of a species determined to reclaim its place in the stars. The first wave of Earth's forces moved in perfect synchrony, striking critical points across the Empire's defense network. The Empire's military command was slow to respond, still reeling from the earlier uprisings and their own internal struggles. It wasn't just that they were outnumbered. It was that they had no idea how to fight against the humans anymore. Every fleet they sent into battle was met with a ghost. Earth's ships, which once disappeared into the dark void of space, now seemed to be everywhere, laying waste to key systems and resources in a matter of hours. The Empire's most advanced fleets, the ones that had once been the terror of the galaxy, now found themselves outmaneuvered and outclassed. Earth's new strategy was not just to attack, it was to dominate. Their fleet now carried with it an unparalleled precision that shattered the Empire's defenses, one system at a time. No longer did Earth strike blindly, with only sporadic attacks. Now, the humans were orchestrating each strike with such careful planning that the Empire was being pulled apart, piece by piece. Key supply lines were severed. Communication hubs were disabled. Entire fleets were lost without warning, leaving the Empire's forces scattered and unable to regroup. The first major victory for Earth came when they managed to cut off the Empire's central military supply chain. The supply line, which had stretched across the galaxy and kept the Empire's war machine running, was crippled within a single night. With the Empire's resources now in disarray, their response was sluggish and uncoordinated, unable to push back against the overwhelming speed and efficiency of the human fleet. As Earth continued to dismantle the Empire's logistical backbone, more and more planets began to revolt. Entire systems that had long been under the Empire's control now began to rise up, emboldened by Earth's success. Resistance groups, once isolated and crushed by the Empire, found new strength as Earth's example spread like wildfire. No longer did the citizens of the Empire feel oppressed. They felt united in a shared cause. The humans, with their innovative tactics and unwavering resolve, had lit a fire across the galaxy, and the flames were growing larger by the day. With the Empire's supply chains shattered and their fleets in retreat, Earth's forces advanced toward the heart of the Empire, the imperial capital itself. Earth had not only shattered the illusion of imperial invincibility, but they had also successfully destabilized the very core of the Empire's power. Now the time had come for the final confrontation. The imperial leaders, once unassailable, now cowered behind walls of bureaucracy and ineffective commands, their vast fleets unable to halt Earth's inevitable march toward victory. The human fleet advanced in force, their ships now a massive and relentless presence. Every system they passed through was met with little resistance, as more and more sectors threw their allegiance behind Earth's cause. The Empire's might had been broken, their once unrivaled strength undone by the tenacity of a species they had once thought too weak to challenge them. And as Earth's forces drew ever closer to the Empire's capital, the galaxy waited with bated breath, unsure of what would come next, but knowing with certainty that the Empire's reign was over. The humans had become more than just a challenge. They had become the new future of the galaxy, and nothing could stop them now. The final push was swift, as Earth's fleet made its way to the Empire's heart, its capital. The Empire had once held the galaxy in a vice grip, but now that grip was weakening, its once unbreakable command crumbling under the weight of its own arrogance. As Earth's ships advanced toward the core of imperial power, the sheer scope of their success became apparent. The Empire, unable to adapt to the tactics of a species they had so grievously underestimated, was now on the brink of collapse. The Empire's high command had retreated to their capital, huddling behind layers of protection and a rapidly shrinking fleet. But it was too late. Earth had already done what was once thought impossible. They had dismantled the Empire piece by piece, dismantling its military power, cutting off its communication, and eroding the very foundation of its control. And now, they stood on the precipice of the final victory. The human fleet was upon them, overwhelming in its presence, a force that could not be ignored any longer. The Imperial leaders, once secure in their position as the unquestioned rulers of the galaxy, now faced the reality of their own downfall. Earth's forces were methodical and precise in their advance, cutting through the last remnants of Imperial resistance. No fleet was large enough to stop them. No defensive measure was sufficient. The sheer scale of Earth's strategy had broken the Empire. And now, it was only a matter of time before the last walls came crashing down. As Earth's ships moved ever closer to the Imperial capital, the Empire's military and political structure began to fracture completely. Resistance fighters from across the galaxy rallied behind the humans, their voices rising in defiance of the Empire's tyrannical rule. Once subjugated systems had found hope in the human struggle, and they too began to rise up, fighting not just for their own freedom, but for the promise that Earth had given to the galaxy, a promise of unity, of strength in numbers, and the right to self-determination. Inside the capital, the Empire's leaders realized that they had no more cards to play. Their fleets, once the terror of the stars, were scattered, beaten, and fractured. Their defenses were ineffective against the coordinated might of Earth's forces. In a last-ditch attempt to maintain some form of control, the Imperial leadership offered Earth a chance at negotiation, but it was a hollow plea, one made too late. The Empire had shown no interest in peace or diplomacy when they held all the power, and now that they were on the losing end, they had no leverage left. Earth responded not with further words, but with actions. The human fleet did not halt its advance. It continued forward, reaching the heart of the Empire's capital. The battle was over before it even began. The final wave of Earth's fleet disabled the capital's defenses with chilling efficiency, and before long, Earth's ships docked on the Imperial command hub itself. It was a symbolic act, marking the final chapter of the Empire's reign. As the last Imperial commanders were taken into custody, the galaxy felt the shift. The old order, the empire that had subjugated countless worlds for millennia, had fallen. And in its place, a new dawn rose. Earth had not just defeated the Empire, they had reshaped the galaxy. The galaxy that had once looked down on humanity now looked to them for leadership, guidance, and hope. The humans had won not by strength alone, but by their ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast an enemy that had underestimated them at every turn. The message was clear, and it rang across the stars. Earth was no longer a backwater planet. It was the new heart of the galaxy. And as the stars glimmered above, the people of Earth stood united, ready to shake the future of a galaxy that had once tried to crush them, knowing that their story was only just beginning.